This is Middle East Brief with Avi Kaner, your daily intelligence update on what actually matters.
For years, much of the world has viewed the Israeli-Palestinian conflict through a simple framework: Israel versus Palestinians, power versus victimhood. But a new United Nations report tells a more complicated story, and it is a story that many people would rather ignore. The report documents widespread killings, torture, mutilation, sexual violence, and public executions carried out by Hamas and other Hamas-affiliated forces against Palestinians in Gaza. According to the report, Hamas-affiliated forces were responsible for hundreds of recent documented cases of executions and severe physical violence. The methods described are chilling: public executions, kneecappings, beatings with metal pipes, bone breaking using cement blocks, forced confessions, public humiliation, and sexual violence. One victim was tied up while militants repeatedly smashed his legs with a cement block. Another was beaten with metal pipes until both legs were broken. Others were shot in the knees, resulting in permanent disability. The report describes Palestinians being blindfolded, tied up, dragged into public squares, and executed in front of crowds. In one case, 3 Palestinian men were publicly executed outside Al-Shifa hospital. Their hands were tied, their eyes were covered, they were shot repeatedly at close range. In another case, 8 members of a Palestinian clan surrendered to Hamas after receiving assurances they would be treated fairly. Less than 2 hours later, they were publicly executed. The report also documents sexual humiliation, victims stripped, forced to confess on camera, and publicly shamed before neighbors and family members. Videos were intentionally distributed online to maximize the humiliation and fear. And perhaps most disturbing of all, children were not spared. The report documents Hamas subjecting Palestinian children to severe beatings, broken limbs, and public punishment. Children were also forced to witness public acts of violence, executions, and torture. This matters because it reveals something often missing from international discussions. The greatest victims of Hamas are Palestinians themselves. For years, critics of Israel have portrayed Hamas as a resistance movement. But resistance movements do not publicly execute their own people. Resistance movements do not kneecap children. Resistant movements do not beat civilians with metal pipes inside hospital complexes. What the report describes is something else: an authoritarian organization maintaining control through fear. And none of this is new. The report traces similar Hamas abuses going back years: executions during the Hamas-Fatah conflict, torture of political opponents, public punishments, the suppression of dissent. In other words, this is not a wartime anomaly. It is part of a pattern. There is another uncomfortable truth here. Many of the same international activists who speak passionately about Palestinian human rights become strangely silent when Palestinians are abused by Hamas. When Israel is accused, headlines appear instantly. When Hamas tortures and brutally executes Palestinians, the reaction is muted or ignored altogether. But human rights are supposed to be universal. If Palestinian lives matter, then Palestinians, victims of Hamas, matter too. And perhaps the most remarkable aspect of this report is who wrote it. Not Israel, not a pro-Israel advocacy group, not a Western think tank, but the United Nations itself, an institution frequently criticized for its disproportionate focus on the Jewish state. Yet even this UN commission concluded that Hamas-affiliated forces committed murder, torture, sexual violence, cruel treatment, and degrading punishment against Palestinians, including children, in Gaza. That should force a serious conversation, because no Palestinian child deserves to grow up under fear. No Palestinian family deserves to watch relatives publicly executed. And no society can build a better future while armed groups govern through terror. The tragedy of Gaza is not only that Palestinians have suffered during the war, it is that many Palestinians have also suffered under the very people who claim to represent them. And that reality deserves far more attention than it deserves. The Hamas criminals that terrorize Palestinians must be dismantled once and for all.
This is Middle East Brief with Avi Kaner. If you want clarity, not noise, follow and share. Continue the conversation on X at Avi Kaner. Back tomorrow